Good morning, friends. Welcome to today's daily Dharma. We're continuing to explore compassion. And for those of you who may just be joining us today for this week, last week we talked about dukkha and how when there's the correct understanding of dukkha, that the connection with it, the allowing oneself to be touched by it, with the correct understanding, then what naturally and spontaneously arises is compassion. Without that correct understanding, what arises is reactivity. But with seeing dukkha properly, or to the degree that we do, then compassion will arise. So it's naturally moving into compassion this week. And we've been practicing a couple different ways, finding our way in, and then going through sort of the categories of people, starting with oneself to practice compassion with. Today, following the progression, we're going to practice with what's called the difficult person. And these layers of practicing compassion, get generally more and more difficult. Yesterday, we practiced with someone like who we knew of. So we know that they're definitely a person. They weren't just imaginary, but we don't really know them. Maybe not even have ever spoken to them. And that's a change from, say, working with ourselves or people that we're very close with. We know well, know their circumstances, appreciate things about them, etc. When we move to people we don't know, it's a shift where the compassion is generated not so much because of how much we care for that person, but simply because they are a fellow human being and are subject to the same challenges and difficulties that we are, not as that they've done anything wrong necessarily, but just because they're a human being, they've taken birth and therefore are going to come up against these difficulties and challenges of body and mind. And so based on that, we move towards compassion, knowing that maybe not now, but in the past or in the future, they will run up against these difficulties. And so today, as we work with the difficult person, this same kind of foundation, like, beyond whatever particulars we know about them, or beyond any particular way that they might behave or act towards us or towards others, they still share this same common humanity. And with this category, one way to kind of bring that to the fore, that understanding, is sometimes people, when working with a difficult person, will imagine them as a young child or even as a baby, just a newborn, helpless, totally dependent on other beings to keep them alive, to support them. And that kind of remembering of the largeness of their humanity, not just maybe the snapshot that we know of them now, or that snapshot that we know of them when they did that thing that made us feel bad, right? They're a larger context. So imagining them as a young child or a baby, helpful. Anything to connect ourselves with this common humanity, and that all bodies, all hearts and minds are subject to these unpleasant, challenging, difficult situations, externally and internally, just via the fact of being born and living this life. Whenever we practice with a difficult person in the Brahma Viharas, of which the compassion is one, with loving kindness and also appreciative joy and equanimity, whenever we practice with a difficult person, we start with what's called the easy difficult person. So, not your like worst enemy. This someone annoys you a bit, or maybe it's even just actually could be a friend that one time when whatever, and you fill in the blank. That can be a good one to work with. They're not like overall a difficult person for you, but there's that one time that like, when they did that or said that, it was painful. So choosing something, not overwhelming, someone not overwhelming. And just maybe take a moment, think about who that might be. And then let's go ahead and settle into the posture that we're going to do the practice in. And again, relaxation being at the fore, so lying down, leaning back in the chair, etc. If you find that helpful. Maybe taking a couple little bit deeper breaths than you normally would. And on the out breath, really letting go, softening, relaxing. Letting the energy of the body that can be held kind of up, held tight and up, and letting that relax and letting that energy sink downwards. Feeling the body connected to what's below it, support from below, letting go into that support. And bringing the attention to the body in a way that you feel the body, so this somatic connection. You feel sensations, warmth, coolness, maybe a sense of hardness or softness. And then sensations that are more alive and moving, perhaps like vibrating, tingling, buzzing, pulsing. The body is alive. It's a sentient life form. And this can be known somatically. This aliveness can be felt. And we connect with the body in this way as a support for this first kind of entry point in the compassion practice, which is bringing the attention to the heart center, literally connecting with the heart. Bring your attention there and notice what sensations, if any, you feel. The more relaxed and still the body is, the more available the subtle sensations in the body become to be felt. Sometimes placing a hand over the heart center, literally as a way to connect physically with that place in the body, can be helpful. Also, imagining that one is breathing in and out of the heart center can be another way to help connect somatically to that place in the body. Yeah, the heart is tender, and connecting to that tenderness in a physical way is a really great kind of foundation or platform from which to do the rest of the compassion practice from. And if you connect with this way of practicing, you can continue to keep that going throughout the different categories that we use, like something in the background. And we'll start with ourselves, bringing to mind some situation, experience, either in the present, perhaps in the not too distant past, that was difficult for you. Could be of body, if you had some challenges physically in some way. Could be in the heart and mind, relational challenges with other people, emotional. Maybe not pick the biggest one. This one that where there's some ouch, either like literally as in with the physical body or metaphorically in the heart and mind. And let that feeling, maybe a visual of the situation or incident, let that come to mind if you can. And let your mindfulness touch and hold that experience. Let that experience be known. Caring for that experience through being with it. The analogy is the young child who's upset, crying, coming to you. You really don't have to do much, do you, except be with them. You hold them. And so we hold this experience. We don't turn away from it. We turn towards it. Be with it. Touching it with mindfulness, holding it with compassion. Maybe there's words or phrases that one uses. I care for you. I care for this suffering. It's okay. Maybe there's imagined touch, holding. You see what works for you. See what helps you to connect with that aspect of the heart that can care for and be tender with what's difficult. Using the somatic approach, continuing with that, if you find that helpful. Using the hands, if you find that helpful, to literally this sense of holding oneself, just leaning very gently forward into the hands as they're placed across the chest. And with all the Brahma Vihara practices, if you're connecting, say, with what we're doing right now, and you don't want to change anything, don't feel like you have to. You can just stay right here. And if you'd like to try now working with a difficult person, letting go of any visual, say of yourself or a particular situation, letting go of any phrases you're using or imagined touch, and bring to mind someone who you have difficulty with. It might be someone you have difficulty with who you know is having some challenge right now or not. That doesn't need to be part of the equation because again, being a human being, they will come up against difficulties of body and mind. It's just the way it is. Bringing them to mind, reflecting on our common humanity, very similar hopes and fears for being loved and feeling love, desire to be included and a part of things socially. The wish to, fill one's potential, what they feel like one's potential is in this life, etc. The desire not to feel pain or suffering, all very similar. And then bringing to mind if you know this person is having a difficult time one way or another right now. And if not, knowing that they have been and will again in the future. Maybe just this very simple, gentle wish for them not to suffer. Just a wish that they traverse whatever difficulties arise for them with ease. And you just see what's true for you. Maybe you've been using the phrase and you try it. I care for your suffering, and you feel it. Okay, and you just know that it's not a problem. You can perhaps work with the intention, may I one day care about your suffering, see how that feels. Maybe you just don't really go near that. It's just not where you're at. Maybe it's just a very simple wish that they not have to suffer. Even that could feel like you can't connect with it. It's okay if you can't connect with it. And if it's just a general, I can't quite connect with it, keep going. See if you can flex that muscle a little bit. It's more like when you feel like you've really hit a brick wall. It's when you don't want to push. And then you see what is possible. If that's not possible, what is? So we're working the edge here where the heart is stretching, not tearing, but stretching. We don't do it for too long. Letting go of the image, if you have, of this person or of the circumstance. Letting go of any phrases, if you were using any imagined touch. Sitting quietly for a moment or two, being with what's present. Any sense of compassion or any sense of lack of compassion, heart turning cold, stone-like. Can we have compassion for that? That doesn't feel great. It's not kind of a suffering state. Okay. Can we care for that? And as much as feels appropriate, just extending the wish out to all beings that they be free from suffering, mental, physical suffering. May they be well, may they be at ease. Thank you for taking the time to cultivate this lovely mind state of compassion. Here's something that kind of helps me, especially with compassion in general, but especially kind of with difficult people. Think about this. No one wakes up in the morning and says, I hope I suffer today, or even intuits it or feels it on any level, right? No one does that. We hope that, you know, in the least that are, the qualities of the day, in terms of the Dharma, through the sense doors are pleasant. We hope that we feel loved, that we are connected, etc. We don't wake up and go, gee, I hope I suffer today. No one does that. Even the most difficult person that you can imagine for you does that. And yet, we all of us, in equally the same way, are subject to all sorts of difficulties that arise in the body and the heart and the mind. We're all in the same boat that way. So we can reflect on these things and can help in softening and maybe even opening the heart a bit towards difficult people in our lives and being able to wish them well with whatever difficulties they are or might go through. Okay, that's it, folks. That's it for this week. I'll see you on Monday again. I'm going to actually continue some with the compassion practice because we can practice for individuals. We can also practice for groups of people. And this is a kind of interesting exploration. So we'll start that on Monday. Okay, I wish you well till then. Take good care. Bye-bye.